From the News Channel 5 Network, this is Morning Line with Nick Barris.
Everyone, thanks for joining us on the Morning Line. And Nick Barris here on a Thursday. We've got a good show on tap for you. We're going to invite you to join in the conversation. We'll have a chance if you want to call in to the Plus. We'll get the number up there in just a moment. We're also streaming live on Facebook at News Channel 5 if you want to go there as well. And this morning we're going to look into some of what's happening here again in Metro Nashville with regard to a couple of things. One, we're going to talk about the property tax increase that's in the works. But as you know, there's an effort on the way to have a referendum to recall that and get rid of it and see what different people think about what will happen if that occurs. We're going to talk about that, all right? And then we'll also touch bases on what the status is right now and questions maybe that we've heard over the last 24 hours or so about the accuracy of some of the numbers with regard to COVID cases and how much information we're given with regard to what we see happening in the bars down on 2nd and Broad and the like. Obviously, a lot of people struggling, to stay open under these circumstances, trying to balance business along with safety and public safety and how that all plays out. We'll get into all of that this morning, and as I said, as always, your chance to participate as well with one of the councilmen at large who's in the middle of all this and is always very outspoken. And Steve Glover is joining us this morning. Steve, good morning to you. Can you hear me all right? And let's see how your audio is.
Well, I think, you tell me if you can hear me okay.
Okay, so the audio is not working. We just lost it. Yeah. See, hey, can you call 73, what's the number again? 737-7587. Not our viewers, but Steve, so we get a clear signal. Steve, try calling 737-7587. That's one of them numbers that people can call into the back room. Call that number, Steve. Do you copy that? 737-7587. We'll try to get that signal up and see if we can get a clear audio. We apologize. Sometimes when we're doing the streaming video and Zoom, you have the audio perfectly just before the show starts, and it can be sketchy, and we just lost it. And there's no sense moving forward. You heard what he sounded like, and I want to hear what he has to say. So let's see if we can get that up. And again, this happens, I'd venture to guess, once or twice every couple of weeks where one of our guests has an audio problem, and I don't know if it's just sunspots or what that messes it up. So please bear with us here in just a moment. We'll see if we can get a clear signal for him. And as I said, one of the things we'll talk about is the referendum proposed by the group For Good Government. It would cap tax increases in Davidson County to 2%, effectively repealing that 34% property tax hike that everyone has been talking about. And a lot of people objecting to it. But then we're going to get into some of the details of what the mayor is saying as to why they simply had no choice but to go with a property tax that high. Steve, of course, I think felt that was too much, but he also had a proposal of his own. I think even he would acknowledge that some type of increase was needed, probably more than 2%. And we'll see what he takes away from this referendum as it sets up here just in a moment. So, as I said, we'll take your phone calls if you have a question or comment from him. But again, we're trying to get that audio back up and running clearly. And they'll let me know back in control in just a second whether or not that's the case. This will give me a chance to give you a little more background on the referendum, all right? If it makes it onto the ballot, and still it's not clear, the signatures all have to be confirmed and accepted along that way. They needed 20,000 signatures. They got it. If it makes it onto a ballot for a special election, it would be in December. City officials, including the mayor, say if that passes, it could be a big hit to the city financially, and they're saying that emergency services and others would be hammered by this. Some talk that as many as 500 positions within the police department could be cut, a 35% cut in metro budget, a lot of civilian positions, taken away. Earlier this week, State Comptroller Justin Wilson, they basically monitor finances for cities and counties around the state, said that if that hike is repealed, the city may not be able to balance its budget. If that's the case, the state would have to take over metro finances. That puts it into a conservatorship. You no longer have control of how money is spent, and the state runs the show. All right. Others are saying, look, these are scare tactics. This is not something that, can't be fixed by some better management of the money. All right. If you talk to a lot of folks, including Steve, and we'll hear from him in a moment, they'll say that, look, Metro was in tight financial straits even before COVID and the tornado hit. okay, back in March, and that this just pushed it over the top, and that something has to be done. I think most people would agree. Yes, money could be better spent in a different way, but we're in this pickle now. How do we get out of it? All right, let's see if we can hear Steve a little clearer now. Steve, are you there, my friend?
Yeah, we're going to try this and see if this works better.
That's perfect. Listen, thank you. That just gave us a second delay there, but this will work. And let's just go to you right off the bat. First, I just want to ask you a little bit about, some reports over the last couple of days, and one that was aired yesterday with regard to some emails and questions about the validity of some of the numbers coming from Metro when it comes to COVID cases in bars and restaurants down in 2nd and Broad. And I think you've seen these emails, and you have concerns about whether or not they're being transparent enough with these numbers. What is your take? And maybe give us a little background on what you know about what you've seen in these emails.
Well, let me say this. They are accurate. I know that. I had our attorney look at it and verify it that they did come from the mayor and from the health department's office. So I know that's very real, number one. Number two, it's highly disturbing. We have thousands of people that are still out of work. Because of obviously falsified numbers or data that's being shared. They keep moving the metric around, and it's really creating a massive problem for people that are in certain industries, especially downtown. And the amount of credibility that's been lost now, we didn't have any credibility to lose, and this just blew the rest of it out of the water. So we've got some real issues, some real problems. And I'm afraid this is not over. I think it's going to go deeper.
Okay, and let me just ask you this. We got to get to it. You talk about falsifying numbers and the like. I've seen some of the emails, and my takeaway from this is that at one point in the game, they were talking about how we have to shut this down. These were memos, I think, and you correct me if I'm wrong, since you've been in this longer than I have, looking at these, dating back to June, where it sounded to me like they talked about all these cases, but that it looked like there weren't as many as people were led to believe in some of the bars and restaurants through contract tracing of COVID cases, and that there were some emails talking about how maybe we shouldn't make these public. And so I don't know that the way I'm reading into this, that there's this concerted effort from someone wanting to put bars and restaurants out of business. Do you honestly believe that? And two, it's early on, and wouldn't you agree that a lot of the people going to these bars and restaurants, if they don't live in Davidson County and they go home wherever they live and get sick, we're not going to know about it?
Well, here's what I want to agree with. I don't agree that we've handled this properly. I don't think that we've done a lot of things correctly. I've always been very concerned about the data. One of the things that I started looking at, and Nick, let me just be very transparent with you. I've got a group of people who have been investigating the numbers that are data folks, that are actuarials, they've got a whole team that's been looking at this, and I've been working with them for over a month now. And my concern, and I've been out talking to people about this, is that these numbers are being doctored. The part that bothers me the most, and this has to do straight with the property tax increase, is that here we raise the property tax 34 to 37% because we're going to be so short on income. And I started saying this a long time ago. It's a self-fulfilling destiny that we're going to be short on income if we keep the economy shut down. So I don't buy into the fact that it's necessarily going to other cities after it leaves here. There's just too many holes in all of this, and the data is just not as solid as everybody wants to pretend like that it is. It's not that solid.
Okay, and you may be right about that. Let me ask you this. Do you honestly believe, though, that and maybe you can give me what you think the reasoning might be if say, the mayor or some in the city are intentionally hiding some of these numbers? Do you honestly believe they want to see, the economy to continue to suffer?
I'm really trying not to think the worst, but it's really hard not to think the worst right now.
Well, why would they? That makes no sense, does it? Why would they honestly, why would the mayor of this city want to see the economy tank and purposely try to hide some numbers, which we don't know for sure that's the case, of course, but honestly, why, Steve?
Why would they hide the data? Why would they say, this isn't going public, is it? Why would they do all the stuff they've done? Nick, at this point, there's nothing that I might find out that I won't believe that they actually did. So, I've got to tell you, I'm that disgusted with where we are on the situation. I believe that you be honest about everything.
Of course.
And bottom line is, if you get upset with the data, I'm telling you, okay. But and the beautiful thing about it is, if you tell the truth all the time, you don't have to worry about backtracking on what you said, because it's still the truth. Now, if information changes on you and it's legitimate, that's one thing. But if you're hiding data, and you're not talking about the construction sites and some of the other things, and you're not being completely transparent and truthful with the taxpayers of Nashville, that's a whole nother can of worms right there. That is absolutely, in my mind, disgusting, and I can't even fathom how you do that to people's lives. Not fathom that, period.
All right, hang tight. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll take some of the comments on Facebook, maybe a few phone calls, and we'll try to work and get. There's still a little bubbling there in your audio, which again we apologize for that. We'll take a break and be back more with Councilman at Large Steve Glover right after this.